know that. I'm just like going through stuff looking for it.
Okay, call this council regular session to order Wednesday, January 16th, 7 p.m. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, I will now open it up for visitor comments.
Hello,
Hello.
Shauna Harrison, 206 North Vernonia Road, St. Helens, Oregon. I am here today in regards to, on your session agenda, you had 4F. If you want to scroll down to that, would be great. Yes, in regards to North Vernonia sidewalks. So I did print out the final engineering if anybody wants a copy of it. I only have a couple of them. But I did want to talk about a couple things real quick before you guys get started on this project, which I totally support and think is amazing and great, is the lack of a storm drain system as part of this project. I think that's a huge concern. If you travel along Oakwood, down North Vernonia to the park, there's some massive, huge water culverts there and a lot of water for a lot of properties. All the properties actually that sit along North Vernonia, most of them are below grade. Most of them are below grade of that road. So it's going to exacerbate some water issues. So that was my reason for coming down here. I apologize. I just haphazardly came across that this was going to be, this project was in works. So yeah, that's what my biggest concern is that this that you're looking to approve tonight doesn't have a storm drain system as part of the project. There's also super minimal lighting on that road, which is also a major concern if you drive, especially the stretch just between North Vernonia and France Road. There's also Seal Road. Between France and Seal is where you guys are going to have some water mitigation things that are going to have to be evaluated. So I just think it's, I mean, I understand I'm not an engineer, and that's your guys' job, and you guys do an amazing job. And I just think that it's something that definitely is going to have to be addressed. Thank you.
Sue, do you want to address that?
This, excuse me, this sidewalk where Ms. Harrison is talking about is not going to impact the existing storm drainage system. Mm-hmm. It's going to be built behind it within the existing right-of-way. So there will be drainage allowances for the yards that the sidewalk will be constructed in front of, but there's not going to be any changes because we're not changing the structure of the road at all. We're just building a sidewalk at the back portion of the right-of-way where it's designed to go per the cross sections that are designated in the transportation system plan.
And then the existing properties can drain through that sidewalk.
Yes.
Okay.
And we're on both sides.
Yes, on the opposite side of the road, the storm drain is fairly well constructed. It's mostly underground along that section of the road. There is where she's talking about, there is a few sections that is open ditch.
Yep.
Goes from culvert to ditch to culvert to ditch. That won't be impacted by the sidewalk. The sidewalk will be on the back side of that.
Okay.
So the concern is that you're doing no, that overruns, that system is, and that's okay. I realized during the engineering thing you guys have for $90,000 that it's going to be through February of December of this year, and I realize that there will be other meetings that will be involved in regards to the process. I'm just telling you as forthright because as I live in the community and I'm over by there and I see lots of kids have to, those ditches, they're overran, so they're going to flood out. They're already overran there right between France and Seal. So, I mean, if you sent somebody out there tomorrow, would probably be, when it rains a bit, you'll see exactly what I'm
Yeah, we've been out there
talking
plenty
about.
of times when there's rain.
when it's flooded the street. And so you guys don't think that this wouldn't be a good opportunity for us to try to fix that?
This isn't the appropriate project to try to address that. This is a project to try to get safe passage for pedestrians along the side of that road. To do the storm drainage, we'll have to redo the street portion of it, and we don't have funding to be able to do that, to address that at this
But
time.
we still can address it with the sidewalk, not messing with the sidewalk, because it'll be behind it.
Not going to impact what's existing, but the issue right there at Clark's Corner, what you're talking about, is actually an issue downstream of that starts that to back up.
Right.
It doesn't.
It's
not-
piping size, right? Probably.
Yeah, there's been some piping size and also some plug culverts downstream of that.
Yeah. It goes through a lot of
newer
yards, and people put yard debris in their yards, and it starts to back that up.
Okay. Well,
I'll guarantee you, if there's a flood in this city, Neil has known about it.
no, I don't doubt that one bit. I know that 110%. And he knows, and
You are right that has flooded on that
Oh, yeah.
corner before,
well,
numerous times.
Yep, I've been out there.
so yeah, no, and I understand the process of your process. I have grading issues over there, and you guys are going to run into it, and there's going to be more meetings, like I said before. So I just definitely wanted to come down and let my neighbors know, and so we can try to figure out if there's anything we can do to help be advantageous and projects that we're doing that are going to be forthright for the long haul. And that's where, it seems to me to put something in front of a massive water eroding waste system seems a little, I don't know, disadvantageous. But I understand that, obviously you guys have a huge development going up above there where there's lots of traffic for kids, and that is obviously our number one priority. It just seems like a perfect time to try to figure out what you're going to at least do about that, because those kids aren't going to be able to pass that sidewalk when it's completely flooded over.
Thank you.
I really like that ring you're wearing too, by the way. Yeah. Other visitor comments?
Good evening. Art Laskowicz. I'm a resident here in St. Helens. And there's a couple things on your agenda tonight that caught my eye that I just wanted to address for the record. In particular, 4B, ratify agreement with the state lands for the sediment disposal facility feasibility analysis. That's basically $500,000, $500,000, am I correct in that the city is getting to pursue turning the lagoon into a landfill? Is that
To explore that, yeah.
to explore that? Okay. Because as I look at this, it's agreed in principle. The $500,000 is coming from the Portland Harbor Cleanup Fund through the Division of State Lands. And it is to address just very specifically turning the lagoon into a landfill. It says here that there's a statement of work on or before 30 days from the effective date of this agreement, which was dated on the 8th. Is there a statement of work that has anybody seen?
That's a work product that comes after this agreement. That's
Right.
the nature of the agreement,
It struck me interesting that we have $500,000 that we've been given, and there's no statement of work. So I was just wondering, what are we going to do with that $500,000? How is it going to be spent?
Our consultants have worked on this is a project that's been in the works for quite some time, so we've done a fair amount of work with that statement of work.
And when will that be available to us?
When it is agreed upon, so.
Within 30 days of the 8th, the
Yeah,
signing of this agreement. Is that the way I should interpret that?
Sure, yeah. It's,
Okay.
yeah.
So, still a lot of confusion, which leads me to my next point. We're going to be approving the council minutes, and in particular, the work session dated December 19th. There's a point in here I'd like some clarification on, and this is Doug. Council President Morton reported and I'm reading from the minutes, he doesn't know where Topaz's comment about putting toxic waste in the lagoon comes from. They have not talked about receiving toxic waste in the community. So what does that mean, if you clarify that before we finalize those minutes? Have we talked about receiving toxic waste, or we haven't talked about receiving toxic waste, or I'm a little bit confused in how to interpret that.
We have not talked about receiving toxic waste.
Okay, I would tend to disagree with you on that.
We have
So
not.
when I
we
talk
have
about
not,
transparency,
we have not talked about receiving toxic waste.
right,
Dredge spoils
and who
are,
is we?
Dredge spoils are not toxic waste by definition, is I think the clarity.
By definition,
But
you're
we-
incorrect.
But until
But
we
you
have,
are incorrect. And we have talked about receiving toxic waste for
Who's
over 2
who's we?
years. We, the council, in particular.
No, we, the
John,
council. You're not part of the council that I know of.
when I
What do you
said
mean
we?
Okay.
That's what I said. On my question, I'd like clarification. It says they have not talked about receiving waste, so who is they? But as a
So-
council, I know we've addressed this, we've talked about it for 2 years. John, in particular, has presented this idea to many, many agencies.
Of toxic waste?
Yes. Toxic.
I'm sorry.
Look up at the definition of toxic. There's all kinds of different ways, and different agencies will define toxic. Toxic means contaminated. If these sediments were not contaminated, they could be open water disposed of. They could be used as clean food.
There's different
They're
forms of
contam-
contamination, and toxic has to be one of the worst in terms of
That's not
being
correct.
well, whatever.
So
We have not been.
So-
we have not talked about it.
By definition, on a scale of waste, of solid waste, Art, it's probably in the medium to low end range is what we're talking about. If you were doing classifications, and you know this, you obviously deal in this already, and you probably know more about it than we do. But we're going to learn through all this process.
That's
about
why I'm
exactly
asking
what it
for
is.
clarification, because I don't think you fellas, you folks, you ladies and gentlemen, know what you're really talking about and what you're getting into. So when you use these words,
We have experts telling us what we are going to be receiving.
there's
Well,
yeah.
you can,
and I've actually
and you
been
can have your
classified
debate with
as
them,
an expert in a court of
because
law.
you are
than
more
once on
educated
hazardous
about
waste.
this
So
than we are,
I'm more than happy to share, and what I'm looking forward is
And you'll
a
have
path
your-
forward.
and you'll have your say then.
And I thought I'm entitled to my
Yeah.
5 minutes
No,
right
you
now.
are.
So
You are.
rather than wait, I've been waiting. I had my say 2 years ago,
Yep.
and I stood before this group, and then again several months ago, and I'm asking for options to a landfill. I'm asking for options to taking sediments from the Portland Harbor Superfund site that's going to benefit Portland. It's going to benefit Portland Harbor. It's going to benefit the city of Portland. It's going to benefit the Port of Portland. I've spoke with all those people, and they're all, oh yeah, St. Helens wants this stuff. This is a great idea. Everybody in St. Helens wants it. I said, who in St. Helens wants it? Maybe this group wants it. But I just want to put it into perspective. A couple months ago, you observed the concern with some styrofoam blowing around on the waterfront. So I suggest to you to reevaluate those concerns and how the public, we, the citizens of St. Helens, that this has not been presented to us. John, you're going to another meeting in New Orleans in 3 weeks. Am I correct? Is that
Yep.
part of your presentation?
I'm actually not on going to participate in that. Our consultants are.
Well, your name is on here. And previously, it was there. I mean, right there. These are our consultants. You are our project manager.
Right.
The community with a vision, Surge Lagoon into economic boon.
Yeah.
So we're moving down this path at an accelerated rate now. Already have $500,000 from our friends down in Portland. So I just don't feel a real warm fuzzy that you might have the best interests of our community at heart.
So, Art,
Of course, Portland Harbor likes the idea. City of Portland likes the idea. All the Superfund contributors like that idea. But let's flesh this out. Let's have John give us, the citizens, the presentation that he gave 2 years ago. And let's have John and his consultants give the presentation that he's giving. Why is this such a boon to us? I've crunched some of the numbers myself, some of the previous reports. They're all online. The numbers don't match up as far as I'm concerned. So I just want to make that point for the record. I think I covered my bullets, and I think my 5 minutes are up. But
so
we've got the agreement, the council minutes that, again, how you want to interpret it, they're contaminated sediments, and they meet the definition of toxic. They're not RCRA toxic. No, they would have to go to a class C landfill then. And then so finally, like I said, nothing else I need to do, just the previous conferences. And I really, you guys have been great as far as wayfinding and all these other kind of stuff, openness with the veneer plant. But the lagoon has been kind of shuffled in on a sideways approach. And I think that we, the public, are entitled to know more about what's going to happen and how it's going to happen.
I would.
My 2 cents.
Okay, so I would have to disagree that it's just been shuffled in. It's been a long, slow process like government is. And just so the public knows, and I'm sure you're aware of it, so I really don't need to inform you, but that we'll have the EPA, the Army Corps of Engineers, the state of Oregon, the Portland Harbor, the river keepers will be watching this project. Right now, that sediment is doing more harm to you and I where it is floating down that river than in a solid encapsulated on the side of a river right now.
Actually, the
Okay,
worst sediment we have
it's
is
my
in the
turn.
lagoon as we speak.
It's
and
my
in
turn to
the river.
talk.
That's
I
where we
didn't
have a
debate
problem with
you.
our
I
sediment.
didn't interrupt or debate you. It's my turn to talk. So we are going to have all these agencies, and we're going to have consultants that are going to inform, and we're going to go through this process with the public, with you as well. Like I said, we're not going into this blindly. We're not going into it alone. We are aware of what John has been doing. You act like it's a big secret, and it's not. They have to do geological testing on that. They have to do core drilling. They have to see if it's even possible. The concept, from a conceptual standpoint, is huge in the Brownsfield industry. It is a big deal. It absolutely. That's why it has made that national, because it's apparently the environmentalists, which are brownfields guys who deal with the cleanup, say, hey, this is a good project. We want to talk about it. So that being said, you're looking at it in a negative, and we're looking at it is our lagoon, ladies and gentlemen out there, kids out there, is a 39-acre lagoon that was built for the paper mill. It is 2/3 bigger than it needs to be right now to serve our sewer, and we have to pay to treat it, all of it. So it needs to be downsized no matter what, because it's costing us a lot of money the way it sits right now, because it was set up for pulping paper, which is breaking down wood fiber and making the paper out of it. It takes a lot of chemicals and hard chemicals to do that, and that's why it's so massive. We're not making paper anymore. So we are doing the best we can, and we are not going at this alone.
And I will respond back to that. A lot of what you say is true. The problem that we have out there, again, is not going to be solved by bringing in more contaminated sediments from Portland Harbor. We should do the cleanup that we need to do. John, are you going to be at that conference or not?
At this point, I don't have plans to go.
Okay, because on Tuesday the 12th, there's a
we have
learning lab,
representatives.
and it's treatment of dioxin in soil and sediment, problem solved. There's all kinds of other seminars that are going on there as far as cleanup, not turning a contaminated lagoon into a landfill, but new technology that's effective, efficient, and practical to clean these things up. and we won't be left with a landfill there for an eternity filled with carcinogenic sediments, and I'll use that word with confidence. We can clean that thing up, restore it. Yes, we have problems with the wastewater treatment plant, relocating it, resizing it, but the answer, I believe, is not turning it into a landfill. And that's where I'm suggesting, like in any cleanup process, you look at doing nothing at all, you look at cleaning it up to 100%, and you look at the costs, the technology, and the practicability, and you come up with options. I have not seen options even discussed in 2 years. The only option I'm seeing and hearing is landfill, landfill, landfill. I see John pushing this on the Portland Superfund folks, and they think it's a done deal. You know, we've had one of our representatives present a bill for $1.5 million to proceed with permitting.
Brad Witt?
That's
Yeah,
correct.
that is correct.
That didn't go anywhere. But again, we're putting the horse before the cart. Why are you pursuing permitting before you're looking at other options?
Permitting to do the testing, Art, is what it is.
No, that was a permit for
So,
turning it into a
so I'm gonna.
Let's
I just
be
gotta
honest
say
and
this.
let's be
I also gotta say this. We are not receiving 100% of Portland Harbor. That's the worst of the worst is getting shipped. You need to understand that we are not taking the toxic waste that he's talking about. We're gonna get a classification that definitely meets this. And if I were to put 2 dry pieces of dirt, piles of dirt here, and I were to take my water and put it on one's going to roll away. That's what's in the river right now. And I have one that's dry. It ain't going nowhere. It's sitting right there. And then I can build on top of it. Riverfront property. I don't see that being a bad, if it checks out, I don't see that being a bad deal.
Well, I'm glad we got the money
That's
to
my
check it out.
that's
And
my opinion.
I'll bet you a Coca-Cola. First of all, you can't build on an old landfill.
I don't bet.
You
I
know,
don't bet. And I'm
doesn't
not
happen.
going into this blind.
And all landfills leak.
I don't bet.
So, well, we don't have to bet. We'll just, it's for the record. Any other questions for me? I got to get
Art, yes, I've got a couple of questions for you. A couple of these meetings, they've talked about dewatering this and only sending clean stuff here. Has any information been put on how they separate the good from the bad in Portland Harbor before they ship it here?
The way I understand it, they've got localized testing. You know.
No, I'm talking about how, if you misload a barge, how do you separate it? Do you know any methods for doing that?
No, not pretty much once it's mixed.
This,
But again, my concern is the sediments that are currently out there,
Okay.
not coming from Portland.
One of the problems we have is we have a little over 2.5 million pounds of PVC under that pond right now, and that is toxic waste right up front. What's underneath it?
can you reference your source, Steve, for that?
Yes, there's a membrane underneath the cooling pond.
How
It's a
many
quarter
pounds?
inch.
How many pounds did you say of what?
Two-
'Cause I would like your
two
reference
seven-
of your source.
2,722,500.
2 million.
Yep. Basically 13 tons of PVC underneath that in the membrane alone.
That's the liner.
Okay.
That's the liner.
Yeah.
That's right now toxic waste. You cannot recycle that. Okay, and that doesn't count the material that's gassing underneath that we know that was used over the sand that the Army Corps pumped in there in 1960. The contamination from the mill, and in fact, if you look at the old pictures, the contamination harbor or water line went actually south of where the mill building is now. There's actually hard ground between the mill and the slough, and that at one time was. So we've got a number of piles of contamination already here. The one thing I heard from the state, and I don't know if this is true, is they were going to bring everything here from Portland Harbor and do the separation on land, and at which point we would need to ship out the contaminated stuff after we had separated. And so do you know of any way of separating it if the stuff gets here as a mixed load?
I do not.
Okay, thank you.
So this is what the money is for. First and foremost, is to check out the liner, the gases, the stability, the whole thing. It's a concept right now, and obviously in that field, it is seems to be a very good project. That it's going to be talked internationally. Is that what you said it was? Where
The conference you talked about.
yeah.
Yeah, in New Orleans.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yep. So,
Just as a side point, it didn't make your list of notes, but I am skeptical myself, and so we needed more information before I'm willing to go down this road. And I know Councilor Kwan and I had talked about the Oregon Garden and what they've done there, and a lot of other communities have done more innovative wastewater treatment solutions. And so this is about a feasibility study to decide what's the best for us. And just because one thing has risen to the top because it's controversial doesn't mean that all other options are off the table.
Right, and again.
So I mean, one
suggest-
thing,
I just
it's like
haven't
when
seen
you
any
see the
other
barn
options.
burning, everybody sees the barn. But we have other ideas, and until we know all the facts, I'm not willing to sign on for
It would be
anything.
great to share. Is your meeting on the 13th open to the public?
The 13th is goal setting. I don't know.
No.
You're discussing the dredge.
it's different.
Oh, that's
yeah.
a different meeting,
You're
sorry.
discussing the dredge project, the
Uh,
lagoon project.
It's
I guess it could be.
no, it's executive session.
Is it?
Yeah. It's not because of anything other than it's
Why is that not open to the public?
because it qualifies for executive session, and there's a lot of variables that could be considered. and
Maybe you
it's
could explain that to me, why it would mean executive session. I don't know. Again, my transparency concerns. So I guess it's not open to the public. Appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Good luck spending the money. I hope we get some good results back from it.
But
So-
it's not a decision meeting.
No, it's not a decision meeting. It's an education meeting.
Yeah.
Can I clarify? Can I clarify one thing Steve said? Steve, if they bring the contaminated stuff here, it will be already on its own barge and only uploaded to a rail car here. Would be the reason to bring it here. It won't be mixed.
With that, there was a question. The really question that it leads into is: do we pay for the equipment to unload it? We, the city of St. Helens, as well as the rail siding and all of that.
No.
So they're bringing their own equipment and they're paying for the equipment and the
Well,
manpower.
That we don't know that yet.
way
We
down
don't know that. That could be all
It's
part
just,
of
it's
the.
a concept.
That's part of the discussion you'll be involved in, and I'm kind of,
Take it back on track.
yeah. I'm.
Can I
You can interject.
Seems how I had my name thrown around a few dozen times there. I think there's an issue of hazardous waste versus everything else, toxic waste, and we've never talked about receiving hazardous waste here. This is a project that's not about the Portland Harbor. It's about St. Helens, about local options. We have out in the river right now. There's the Armstrong property, there's the Boise property, there's the Pope and Talbot property that all have cleanup needs that are a real close local option. And hauling this material that is toxic, and water can be toxic to some things, it essentially breaks the ecological chain from fish consumption. So there's a bioaccumulation of material that gets into the bugs. The fish eat the bugs. People eat too much fish, and then there's some risk. So we're attempting to break that chain with material that would otherwise come out of the river and just go overland. And that's what the people are telling us anyway at this point. And then it's in the degree of toxicity, it is very, very, very low is what they say. And we're going to have a very aggressive public outreach campaign. This $500,000 is complemented by another $100,000 from the state to do nothing but public outreach, to engage the public, educate the public, talk about this openly. This isn't made in a vacuum here. So
Yeah, and I think it's only been 100,000. That was a while ago that we
Yeah,
discussed.
last month.
Yes, that has,
this is all kind of coming together to move it to the next step and to go through this exploratory phase.
and it has been completely above board. So I'm a little blown away by that. This is we talk about this every so often. I am vested in this community, as we all are. We care about this community 100%. If you listen to what John was saying, the Cascade, Boise Cascade, the Pulp and Talbot, the old pull yard, and Armstrong have cleanup needs that need to be done. This facility could receive those and remedy some of our own issues here as well. And it will not, that facility will not be large enough to fill all of Portland Harbor. We don't have the capacity. So there's no way all that the very toxic stuff is not coming here. You just need to, and you're going to learn like I do. So it's science proves it, and I'm not a scientist, but I can get the general concept, and those guys are going to be the ones that are going to tell us if it can work or cannot work. Okay.
Since I've been on the council, my big concern is getting that lagoon cleaned up somehow. You can't afford it. If you think our sewage rates are expensive now, wow. So what are the alternatives? Art brings a really good point to the table of explore the alternatives. We've tried to do that. And the EPA comes to us. The DEQ comes to us. The Division of State Lands comes to us. Fish and Game comes to us. And they come with the idea of filling the lagoon because it will cost you an unbelievable amount of money to excavate and clean what's in there up. And that's why the whole idea of covering it is on the table. That's one of the options. And will that cost you anything? Absolutely not. Because those are federal dollars. They won't cost you. What's going to cost you is cleaning it up, going in, excavating, and trying to get that material out of there. So those are the options as I understand it.
Well, and
plain and simple.
And I'm just going to state this one last thing, then we're going to move on. The reason
Well, I've got a comment, so when you get done, I'd like to jump in there, okay?
Just go ahead, Steve.
Okay. In the upper Hudson, over the years, General Electric poured a fairly large amount of some of this toxic waste that you talk about into the Hudson River. And it ended up as a Superfund with the government paying for General Electric organizing it. So for us St. Helens to pay for this, I think we ought to look at the option of having the companies that put it there clean it up, even if it means us going to federal court or having the federal government doing it. This is way beyond our means. If you just look at the Frogmore Slough, there's a little over 1,000 million pounds of gunk underneath the slough and this is up till 1920 that was put in there between mud and so on. So this is not a trivial project. And payment and where this stuff goes and the federal government are all tied together. If we assume that Portland's going to give us enough money to hide it without cleaning it up when General Electric and the Hudson River played another game, I think we better check on the players.
Anybody else got any comment before I say my last comment and we're moving on?
I have to. I'm sorry. This is Shauna Harrison, St. Helens, Oregon. When you bought Boise back, I came down and asked directly about the slough, and I was told by a person here, and it doesn't even matter because it's irrelevant now, that we were not going to be responsible for the slough. The slough wasn't going to be our responsibility. Now here we are. I'm just saying that's what you said.
It's not. It's not. By this purchase agreement, the slough is not, but the sediment still sits there, Shauna. We are not responsible. Councilor Topaz is uninformed. The reason Portland Harbor is willing to give us $500,000, and it is Portland Harbor money, is because we are downriver. They would have to ship this upriver through the dams, through the locks, and it would cost over probably $1.5 million for this whole project in fuel alone. So them taking the risk to spend $500,000 to save $1 million or even more potentially, and this is a long, drawn-out process that has the Army Corps of Engineer, the EPA. It's going to be clam shoveled. It's going to be watched and scoped with cameras. They're going to actually clam shovel, and it's GPS. It's very intricate how it has already been core sampled, drilled everywhere for toxicities throughout the river. There's been a lot of money spent on it so far. There's going to be a lot more spent on it. The project itself is $1.4 billion right now. Is that correct?
Yeah, about that.
$1.4 billion cleanup. Okay, it is worse where it is right now. It's harming us more right now, coming down this river, than it would be in a solid form, encapsulated in our lagoon. I guarantee you that. We are being affected by it right now more than we are if it was over there.
So I think the biggest thing is trying to adhere to what risk versus reward is. And I think the biggest concern, I can't speak on behalf of anybody else, but the reason why this topic was brought up by the previous speaker here is that there's been no lack of any other option. I think that that's what I think that a lot of people, when you talk to a couple people in the community, a couple people, especially people that have lived in the community a long time and saw that lagoon when it was a floating home area, when we, sold it to Boise so they could store all their sediment there for exchange for lower water rates and this, that, and the other, Well, I mean, there's been a lot that has gone down since then. As our community grows and we do different things, we have to look at, all the options. And I feel like the biggest concern amongst other people when talking to them about the waste and the risk, because we can all agree that there's a risk and that it is waste, regardless of which level of the waste it is.
That's right.
That there's been no talks of doing anything different. There's been no talk about getting rid of our waste too. So it's kind of like, I personally look at it as, if I've got a water problem on my property, you got a water problem on your property, I'm going to let you pipe your stuff to my property to get it out to the street. Well, that doesn't seem advantageous for me. I'm going to not take on your water. I feel like you guys are taking on, or you're looking only at the option of taking on somebody else's waste for the pursuit of the big, we're doing a betterment for the whole community as a whole because it's not doing well up there in Portland because they don't have it properly encapsulated. So now we're going to see what we can do. Take a little bit of our shit, add it with somebody else's shit. We'll clean their shit up a little bit more so we can take it and put it all together and store it because it's going to be in a safe harbor right there. I think the biggest concern is that there's never been any talks of doing something different.
That you could build on, too.
Okay.
That you could build on. Let's get that straight. That you could build on. That you could have future development, expansion of a city upriver in a 39 acres. You can appreciate, you're a realtor, you can appreciate riverfront property. And
all the riverfront property in the world to me, Rick, doesn't mean nothing.
Let me finish. I did not interrupt you. I did not. With future talks of talking with Scappoose and their sewer issue, now is really the time to actually start looking at, with us only being 8 miles apart and we're in that 40-mile bubble of Portland that has not been discovered, it's probably a good time to start talking about a joint sewer system anyhow with Scappoose. That's the vision I see as future for my kids because I care about my community and we're not going at this alone. I would never bring anything in that I think was going to harm. That's where I fish, okay? I eat fish out of there, all right? It's worse where it is right now. I can only eat walleye once a month because of that Portland Harbor, okay? Because walleye like the slough here, and that's where it's all sitting. So that being said, I'm going to move on from this discussion because we've been on it for a while. You've had your 5 minutes. We've had more than 5 minutes. We're going to learn. This is the first step in the process of having public outreach is getting the funding to start doing it. There will be meetings. We are meeting on the 13th in executive session so we can set up dates for the public to start coming in, giving testimony, and hearing our consultants' testimony on why it will work. If it doesn't work and it doesn't check out, it doesn't check out. Okay? That's
if it
the
doesn't
bottom
check
line.
out, we have to clean it up. Your money has to clean it up because the city owns that property.
Well,
Okay,
you
can
guys
I-
just, you totally just conflicted yourselves.
The
You
sewer, not the outside sediment, Shauna. You're going with the outside sediment earlier. The outside sediment is still Boise's on the hook for that in the slough. The sewer has always been the city's sewer system. Always.
Can
Is that
can I-
correct?
The lagoon.
The
Can I
lagoon has
interject a
always
little
been
bit,
the city's.
Rick? So I used to work at the mill a long time ago.
I thought you're stepping down. Are you still going to stick around this year?
Just a few more months yet.
Okay.
So
Good
anyway,
to see you.
yeah, I worked at the mill, left there with cancer, so I'm very aware of what's going on. But
Jenny had cancer,
I've
and we've got the highest cancer rate
when
in
I
the
worked
county.
there, we talked about the lagoon a lot, what the future was. Ever since I've been on the council, 18 years, we've been talking about the lagoon. So we have looked at all kinds of options. Can't say we haven't talked about it.
Okay. Well, there's been one option that you guys have been fixated on the last 2 years, and it's just been the option
That's
of what.
because some experts in the field have new technology, and they think they have a safe way of doing it. Now they're going to have to convince us of that, and that's what we're trying to look at.
So where the Astoria development is, that was the brownfield. Am I correct? Okay, that will be Astoria. It's all new developed now. That was a brownfield. Same concept, same kind of original concept. Just on one end of the river, upriver a little ways. It's a concept right now. It could be revenue positive, very positive for our community. Which money's not everything. We're not selling out. If it doesn't check out, it doesn't check out.
One of the problems that jumps into this, the city of Portland just put a major sewer project in to clean up the Willamette River. And they said, we've taken care of the sewer problem. And just I think it was 2 weeks ago, we had a heavy rain. They closed down the Willamette for business because the sewer system had overflowed to get into it. I have a
Leave office.
very hard time believing what the experts in Portland say. So when people tell me that they've got it cleaned up or they know where all this stuff is, I have a very hard suspicion because so far everything they've done has been quite incorrect.
That's not who we're talking about.
Okay, so, all right, we're going to move on. Any other visitor comments? Kids, you got anything you want to say? Must be towards the end of the semester and you got to be here? Yeah, okay, all right.
You should have something to say because this is your city.
Yes, and you do always have a voice down here. You always have a voice. Okay, so no other visitor comments. Approve and authorize for signature. A, agreement with Erskine, is that correct? Erskine Law Practice LLC for prosecutorial services. B, agreement with Oregon State Lands and Sediment Disposal Facility feasibility analysis. C, grant contract with State of Oregon OBDD for food bank design and construction. D, agreement with Jensen Strategies for goal setting, facilitation, and planning services. E, fuel supply agreement with Lawrence Oil Company. F, statement of work for professional services with David Evans and Associates, Inc. for North Vernonia sidewalks, preliminary and final engineering.
Move we approve and authorize for signature for A through F.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve for A through F. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. Okay, appointments to city boards and commissions. Do we have any?
I do.
Okay.
Planning Commission recommended, and I concur to reappoint Sheila Semlings and Audrey, I can't remember her last name, Audrey Webster, to the Planning Commission to serve another term.
And that's a motion, right?
Yes.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to appoint
Sheila.
Semlings and Audrey Webster to the Planning Commission. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. Okay, consent agenda for acceptance. A, Housing Need Advisory Committee meeting number 1, minutes dated December 11th, 2018. B, Planning Commission minutes dated December 11th, 2018.
Move we approve consent agenda for acceptance, items A and B as read.
Second?
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve consent agenda 6A and B. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Consent agenda for approval. A, council work session, executive session, and regular sessions minutes dated December 19th, 2018. B, OLCC license. C, accounts payable bill list.
I
Move to
move we,
approve.
go ahead.
Move to approve consent agenda 7A through C.
Second?
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve consent agenda 7A through C. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so I know I held over my my appointments till next month, but we had something that didn't require me, and that is to elect a council president, and so that's something the council decides as a whole and nominates, and so
I nominate Doug Morton as president.
okay. Can I? Any other nominations?
I didn't know if you had more sentence.
I think I can second it, can I?
No, I didn't know if you were done talking or if you hopped in. I was trying to wait for you to finish.
Sentence with a C or a.
So can I second that?
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay. Any other nominations?
A point of order. Keith, you've said that you're going to resign. Actually, you started saying that last January. I'm not sure it's appropriate that you make a motion when someone you're not going to be here.
I will be here for the next 4 to 5 months.
The term is a lot longer than that, is the point, and the fact that you've promised this some time ago.
After the first of the year is what I said.
As I say, whether it's appropriate or not, that's the question I have.
Well, I would have to, and I understand you're questioning, but he is a counselor, and he does have the every right to nominate, make a nomination for council president, as well as you can make just whoever you wanted to nominate. That's what this is, an open discussion. If you'd like to nominate somebody right now, you could as well.
Well, I would like Ginny to be on that, but I would like to discuss that with her before, which, not knowing that this was going to be part of the meeting, those discussions haven't been able to be done. That was the other question. Not having pre-notice that we were going to.
So by our charter, every 2 years, we nominate council president and vote that in publicly in a meeting. So.
Yeah, and typically the public meeting would be announced that that's what we're going to do at that meeting, and no prior announcement was done to that. I was fully aware that it was going to be done soon, but not tonight was the question.
Yeah, my appointments are different than this, but by charter, we're supposed to nominate. We're supposed to do it last meeting.
Right.
Yes.
I knew that, but
Yeah,
when
we didn't have a president. You're right, for 2 weeks. Yeah.
We
right,
didn't have a
but
president.
when
2 weeks,
when
yeah.
you're I didn't separate it from your assignments, and when you pushed out the assignments, I thought the whole thing was pushed out.
Yeah.
And I mean, Councilor Morton has been council president the entire 6 years I've been here, so I've grown accustomed to his face there. So I guess I didn't even think about it. You know, like Steve, if it wasn't on the agenda, it just didn't pop up on my radar that I didn't know was coming.
So
That was the question. Was it an agenda item? And there was no agenda on that, so that was the question.
Yeah.
And so any pre-planning, which would require a agenda announcement, couldn't be done.
but no, it's not. It's not. It's actually by charter. So we were mandated to do it last, without any on the agenda. It's just one of those things by charter that has to be done. So we skipped that process. I have a nomination in a second for Councilor Morton to continue to be president. And so now I will call the vote. Councilor Locke. No?
Hold on.
If there's a
Let's double check.
double check the charter here.
Okay.
that there's a ballot provision here.
Do we have to ballot it? So it's still written in public, right?
It's first from the charter, section 11, at its first meeting after this charter takes effect, and thereafter at its first meeting of each odd-numbered year, which is this 2019, the council by written ballot shall elect a president from its membership. In the mayor's absence from the council meeting, the president shall preside over it. Then it goes on. So
You have the yellow stickies?
at the same time, that information, those ballots are public. So I think it's appropriate to nominate a candidate to sort of kind of narrow the pool so it's not a tie. And then a written, your name and who you're voting for, I guess, would be appropriate too.
So in the
Yeah, Kathy.
election of council president, unlike normally, because I think, it doesn't apply, that you vote on everything, correct?
Correct.
Because in planning commission, the chair doesn't vote.
Yeah,
Here-
only in a
Here,
tiebreaker.
the mayor is
Okay.
just another counselor,
Okay, just making sure.
besides being mayor.
So my question would be, though, if we only have one person that's nominated, that would be the sticking point there. We only have one nomination. Do we really? That's why I was just going to call it to a vote. We have one nomination. We only have one choice. Nobody's running against him. He's unopposed.
Point of order, because Steve is new to this process, and I remember being new, is if he wanted to have a conversation or wanted to at least make a statement, whether we're going to go ahead and vote for Doug anyway, but he had a different feeling, and the reason why he feels the way he does, if he wanted to state that now, that would it be appropriate for him to state that now, and then we could vote for him, or is it irrelevant if there's a majority that already wants one candidate?
No, it's not irrelevant.
Okay, I'm just
no,
not
no,
sure,
no.
'cause we've never
But you
had
had
another
given a
candidate.
statement that you were used to Doug's face being over here.
Yeah, I'm like,
So
it just struck me out of
I
left
thought he
field,
was.
so
I thought he was.
he was
he
like,
was
he wished
pleased
he
with
would
the
have talked
answer.
to me ahead
His
of time.
question is are you interested in being
Yes.
president?
I hadn't even thought about it.
Well, this is the problem, and the fact that we did not do it in the first meeting, we're basically not playing by the rules by default. So I would prefer that we would say next meeting we're going to have this election for the council president, so I can discuss with people. Because as I say, with the rules gone, we're not following the charter.
No, we are following the charter. We are following the charter. I beg to differ about that, and we have to because I need a council president. That
It's not the first meeting, though.
doesn't matter, Steve.
True, but if Rick gets run over tomorrow, we need a
Yep,
we need a mayor.
we need a vote. It needs to happen. And really, I'm new to this. You guys should have caught that. I must say that. I'm the one bringing this to the table. It's not up to me to appoint a council president. It's up to the entire council.
Right.
Mine is only the liaisons, and by charter, I can take my time on doing that. So, yep. So do we have? No.
I made mine. Don't risk. Here, use what did I use? Oh, here I use this.
Get a napkin.
Here you go. You can use
A
that.
napkin.
Yes.
And so Matt was handing the notes up there, the line there.
Oh, he gave you. Yeah, Doug's is there. Yep.
It's your gavel, right?
You can call for a recount, Steve.
I've already mentioned that I thought since it wasn't the first meeting, we have a legal problem. We'll leave it there.
Okay, Council President Morton, reelected.
Thank you.
Yep.
I appreciate the thought, Steve.
We got to worry about our procedures.
Yeah, we got to work on our team.
Yep. Nobody's perfect, and I'm not, and I don't think I'll ever be, so please excuse me, but I'm the one who caught this as your mayor of only 2 years of being here, and Steve's the second newest. There's no history that I was able to grasp a hold of that and bring it to the attention of my administrator and said, hey, what's going on? So, that being said, it won't happen again if I'm elected.
For this thing, anyway.
Yes, for this sake. I'm still not perfect. Okay, so I don't have much to report other than very interesting that how emotional that got just in that little bit of period of time. That's why we're paying $500,000, or they're paying $500,000 to see if it's feasible and do the outreach part of this whole lagoon repurposing is what we like to call it. So, the city's going pretty good. I want to compliment the Officer Cutright and Ludke, two great guys, and I know they did, why they did it is not for that, but they just did it because that's who they are, and I know them both personally, and I great guys. So, the city's been in the paper a lot. Rescue missions. we got I&I. We've been really doing a lot. So it's good to be part of the team, and we got a lot of people, good citizens, working for us. So, and that's all I got to report on. Okay, Council President Morton.
Thank you.
Yep.
Kudos to our public works individuals and engineering for having a notoriety of a national publication and being a huge part of our stormwater and runoff. And I just think that this is really nice that our entire public works staff is pictured here, the whole group. We have a great group of public works crews and leadership. So that's all my report.
Okay. Councilor Topaz.
Nothing else. We did it this afternoon.
Okay. Councilor Carlson.
Two things. One is I always appreciate the citizen feedback, but I'm always disappointed when the good things get lost in the mix. Because also on our agenda was approving the grant contract for the food bank.
Yep.
And nobody came to champion that great project that Jenny shepherded down the field. I just want to make sure that the people realize that we do a lot of great stuff
That was a
that really help out.
$1.5 million block grant.
There's a lot of good stuff that's going on, a lot of good community outreach, a lot of good programs happening.
And that the city's going to continue to facilitate, right, as
Right.
far as the budgeting and because that's what
Being the
comes.
pass-through for the grant. But and then I wanted to just remind everybody that Tuesday of next week, the 22nd, is the official ribbon cutting for the alternative school. A long road for the alternative school, but I heard from the district that they'd had a waiting list for kids to get in there, and they'll be able to open it up for over 100 kids
Really?
next year. Over 100
Wow.
kids. Because there's people on a waiting list, and I'd much rather see kids engaged in education that matches their needs than shut out of education. So I'd encourage people to participate in it. It's June 22nd from 5 to 7, and we'll get some of that great weather we had yesterday so we'll all be dry. But it looks like a beautiful building from the videos. That's all I have.
Thanks. Councilor Locke.
Just want to talk about, for those of you here still here, that if you check, second thing on our mission statement is we provide a safe and healthy environment within the sound economic framework. So We look at our mission statement all the time. Everything we do, we try and preserve it, keep our goals, try and think about everything. We try and think about the whole community as a whole, try and do what's best for everybody. Everybody on this council does that. So, kind of take it seriously when people come in here and, get in our face and say we're not doing a good job or we haven't thought about certain things and whatnot. We spend a lot of time discussing everything we do. And we consult professionals all the time because we're not professionals by any means. I don't know if there is such a thing as a professional anymore because there's just way too many things for everybody to know these days. Other than that, just wanted to talk again about ACSP or Orgrotech. They're looking for employees. They're hiring right now. I don't have I have several phone numbers I can give you, but for now, if you know somebody that's looking for a job, have them contact me. My name and phone number is on the city's website, so just contact me and I will pass that information along, and hopefully by our next meeting I'll get contact information for them so I can pass that on. That's all.
Okay. Department reports. Chief Greenway.
Nothing more to report, Mr. Merrill, from this afternoon.
Yep. Sue?
Nothing else, thank you.
Okay, Neil?
Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Margaret?
I just had one small thing to add, or it's actually a big thing. I neglected to mention today that we have selected an intern for our STEM funding and the STEM programming that we're developing, and she will start tomorrow. Her name is Lillian Nemi, and she's involved with the robotics group at the high school, so she'll be a natural fit to our STEM programming. So we look forward to having Lillian on board.
All right. Matt?
I would just like to give a quick thanks to our Public Works Department, and especially Neil and Roger, who today I went into the rec center after our afternoon meeting, and Roger had finished putting trim and painted and cut and put that around the windows and stuff, and so he's able to take some time, and Neil allowed him to get some work done with some other workers. So just want to give a thanks to Public Works and Roger and all the staff that helped him.
Nice. Hey, Kathy? Nothing? John?
Kind of building off what Councillor Locke had talked about, public safety as being one of the biggest things we do here at the city. And this project that potentially, receives sediment from the river, and it's really important to understand what the definition of toxic is, and it's and the risk and the potential rewards of this project. And all throughout the years that we've been working on this, it's been about a question, and it's an unanswered question: is that can this be done safely? And it's not short term. I mean, it's a long term. Community wide, is there a community benefit? And those are all unanswered questions at this point. The funds that we received are going to answer those questions, or begin to answer those questions. If there's more research that needs to be done, we'll pursue more resources to get to those levels. But there'll be a very extensive. It's on the science-based track. There'll be a very extensive effort, but also on the public engagement, really working with the public, getting public engaged, and really we haven't done that yet, and it will happen. It's coming. So there's a lot of good work. The food bank project's fantastic. There's a lot of good things going on in the community. But, that's all I have.
Okay. Any of you kids got anything you want to comment on? Any questions for us before we adjourn? None? Okay. We're adjourned.